up, you guys? So it's past Thanksgiving. Can you guys believe it? As a business, I can't believe that we made it through Black Friday and Cyber Monday. It's always crazy time during the biggest sales of the year. But we are here, a little exhausted, but still here, trying to make it through until the holiday season. Now, honestly, being an entrepreneur, and you guys might relate, even not being an entrepreneur, the holidays feel like it's a lot of pressure time. So lately, what I find myself doing is I'm going back and forth, fighting with myself with what I want to do and what I don't want to do in order to enjoy this season instead of making it feel like so much pressure and so much work. And I think I'm coming to the conclusion, if something I feel like it's really stressing me out, I'm just calling it quits. I'm not going to do it. So same with the business and my personal life. So if I feel like this one tradition I want to do, for example, baking cookies with the kids and leaving cookies for Santa feels like too much work, I'm just gonna go buy some cookies from the store and call it a day. But actually, I'm gonna do the baking one. That's just fresh in my head because I just bought all the baking stuff and I'm so excited to actually do that with the kids. That was, an example of what you can do if one thing feels like too stressful. But another thing for me that lately I've realized with the business too is planning out like these sales. You don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss customers. You want to make sure, you're on top of everything. Sometimes it can feel very stressful and overwhelming. And right now I'm actually going through a transition, as you guys know, is adding back services to my business. So our business model had shifted down the years when we were not accepting clients for services. We were just doing education and selling our product line. But now with all of that added back into the mix, honestly, I'm overwhelmed. And during the holidays too. Oh, it's crazy. So we're back into hiring lash artists, arranging schedules, making sure every T is crossed and I is dotted with services. Accepting clients is almost another world compared to just the office and the e-commerce work. That's kind of what's been going on with me. I hope you guys are doing well. You had a great Thanksgiving. You did some fun shopping. You got some great deals for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and you're ready to hopefully put up your holiday decorations. If not, it's okay. You don't have to do that. You can just go walk around in an area that's already decorated. No pressure. All right, let's jump into the episode. So this episode, I'm interviewing Dina. And what I think I loved about this episode is as I was talking to her and asking her these questions about her personal life and her journey and her path, I saw her kind of thinking about it and thinking about what she wants to do, what she did, maybe analyzing what happened in the past. And I think it's a great episode for you guys to also start thinking about things and what you want to do and what you want to accomplish in your own life. But besides that, I think she's also amazing for going through a major life crisis, which was her father passing away while she was studying for the bar exam to make her dream of being a lawyer a reality. But through that whole experience, she not only took it as, okay, I'm going to focus on what I need to get done and not let my tragedy in my life really shut me down. She found a way to use her progress and her studies and her work to lift her up instead of just feeling down and shutting down. Now, we all go through grief differently and we all go through different hardships. I think this episode is really good to talk about it and see how somebody handled it and turned it into basically a career. She was able to come up with a business plan while she was going through such a major thing. I love talking to entrepreneurs like her because it opens up everybody's eyes and our eyes that, hey, there might be something for me that I can do if I really want to start my own business, right? There's no one cookie cutter way. There's endless opportunities. We just all have to find what's right and what's fit for us and be true to our callings. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get started and let me know what you think. Hey beauty lovers and fellow entrepreneurs, I'm Yegi, the owner and founder of Yegi Beauty. Within 5 years of being my own boss, I was able to grow Yegi Beauty into a multi-million-dollar company. This podcast is where I share what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur in the beauty industry. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. For today's guest, I have Dina, who is a business litigation attorney and also has a bar exam prep called Forte Bar Prep. We're so excited to have her here. We definitely have not had an attorney on one of our episodes yet, so I'm excited to pick her brain, see what her journey has been, being an entrepreneur, and so much more. But before that, let me ask you a little bit of icebreaker questions, something fun to start with. Do you have any mentors? Anybody you look up to?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, that's honestly a common answer.
There are definitely people who I respect, certain one-off things that I like to watch. In life, though, I don't. I mean, I can say, obviously my mom, things like that, but I'm not gonna say that. I mean, she is, but what I mean by that is that somebody to just, sit there and guide me and do all that.
And really be.
Yeah.
Someone you look up to, and it doesn't have to be anybody that you personally might have contact with. It can be, let's say, Einstein.
Yeah. Richard Branson.
Oh, okay.
I love Richard Branson. I think that
That's the Virgin CEO guy, right?
Yeah, it's the Virgin CEO guy.
I love him.
I like his way of doing business.
I actually have his book. It's like this thick, but I haven't read it yet.
Which one do you have?
His autobiography, I think. That's
Losing My Virginity. Right? It's fantastic.
I haven't read it, but I do have it.
You have to read it. It's honestly, it's really funny. And it's not really a business book, but you learn a lot about business. But I think that his way, because this is what I always say, right? So you have like a Steve Jobs character or whatever. Like that to me is a very specialized talent. I'm never going to be Steve Jobs. You know what I mean?
Maybe you can be.
No, I can't. I can't. I'm not going to create that.
Yeah,
I don't.
You're your own person.
Yeah. No, it's not that. I think it's like a very specialized, very technical, sort of a different way of thought. Maybe a talent that it's not that I don't have it. I don't have it. You know what I mean?
Different.
Yeah. But for somebody like a Richard Branson, I think that his entire ideology of like adapt and move in a business, if it's not working, pivot, do something different. Yeah. I think it's very attainable. And I like him as a person.
And I think just his view on life too. It's like, I have no limits. I'm going to live my life how I want to live my life. And I'm going to go for it. I don't have fear. I'm going to do the crazy things. And isn't he one of the people that insurances don't cover because he's too crazy, like jumping off of planes and doing all these crazy adventures? I think that's him, but we'd have to look it up to double check. Do you know?
It sounds about right. I would love, like, there are certain stories from that book that I will not tell, because I will not tell them correctly.
So we're recommending for me and all of us to read this book.
Yes. It's called Losing My Virginity. By Richard Branson. No, it really is fantastic. Awesome. You should definitely give it a go.
Okay, so he would be your mentor, somebody you look up to be, as in how he controls like his what type of a CEO he is.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's like number one for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
I love that. So let's jump right in. So now officially tell our audience, who are you? What do you do? And what are your businesses about?
So my name is Dina Ovsepian. I am a business litigation attorney here in Los Angeles. And while I was sitting for the bar exam, I also created a bar prep program called Forte Bar Prep.
Okay, I love that. Short and sweet. So Forte Bar Prep, tell us, why did you create this prep program?
Honestly, it was just the process of studying for the bar. I obviously, when you go to law school, well, not obviously. I'm
obviously for you, but maybe not me.
Obviously for everybody should know this. No, but when you go to law school, there's a lot of stigma around the bar. So you're acutely aware that you're prepping for this test from the very first day.
Mm-hmm.
And there's all this talk about how difficult it is, and it just built up.
The stress of it as well.
Exactly, and so you have these bar prep programs. What I'll just refer to as the big three.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a couple more, but there's like three main ones that come to campus, and, they're selling you all these like programs and all that stuff. And you pick one, inevitably you pick one.
That's just traditionally how it's done.
And so you end up getting their prep materials, and it's literally like this thick books, right? And it's outline upon outline upon outline upon outline. Literally, like you have 5 of these, right? And then there's this entire online course program that you need to follow, and they don't really vary all that much from one another.
Okay.
And I was studying for the test. The test is 2 portions. It has the multiple choice portion. It has the essay portion. And then also has something called a performance test, but we're not gonna talk about that.
Okay.
Anyway, so it has those 2 portions.
Okay.
And so basically I was studying for the bar, and I started noticing that this is really just like too much information. And majority of the time, trying to study, at least for the essay portion of the bar, has to do with you have to distill this information and figure out what is actually going to be applicable. So you have to figure out what to memorize, what to know.
What's actually useful and what you need to throw out.
Exactly. So what's actually useful, what you need to figure out, and all of that, you know? This is what takes up the majority of time, right? And most people never really get it. I think that this is part of the reason why. It's a skill, you know, and it's like it takes you 3 years to learn how to master law school. You get to the end of law school and you're like, I could have done that a lot better, right? So it's the same thing with studying for the bar. And it just what you really need to know for the test, for the essay portion of the bar exam, what you need to know, it's a closed world. Not everything that shows up on the multiple choice is going to show up on the test, on the essay portion of the exam. And those really large outlines, they're way too long and way too complicated for the essay portion of the bar exam. So as you're studying for it, you start kind of like distilling this information and understanding what it is that you need to know. So our solution, I actually created Forte with my co-founder, was to create our own product and to study off of our own product.
So it's a system of how to study for the essay portion compared to the old, like those three traditional way of studying of what those other programs were. This is what's different, the essay portion, for them to actually pass it from the first time.
Exactly. So how it works basically is there's 3 different templates for every subject that's tested on the California bar exam, right?
Okay.
So you have your long, you have your bullet, and then you have your checklist.
Okay.
So the long version has every single rule you need to know in order to write a passing answer for whatever subject it is that you're being tested on.
Okay.
And it is written and formatted exactly in the way that you would write it on the test. So basically all the guesswork is taken out for you. We've done everything for you.
So practice, study, memorize, and you're done.
You basically, so it gives you something to memorize from, which the other programs don't give you. Because again, you're starting with this huge book, which you can't memorize, and you have to sort of try to figure out what even you need from it. This, you just take it and you can just memorize it. And also when you're writing your practice answers, you can basically format it exactly the way we have it written. And we have the high frequency rules. These are the rules that are most likely to show up, and the ones that you would prioritize memorizing if you're in a bind. Those are all indicated. And then you have your bullet, which is basically like the buzzword. So after you're done with, not after you're done, but it just kind of, this is how it would work. When you're working with the long outline, you feel like you've mastered that. You move on to the bullet, and this has the buzzwords, so you can recall basically what it is that you've studied. And then the checklist, which is essentially just a skeleton of all of the issues covered in all the subjects.
So you can make sure you got everything down. You didn't
Exactly.
forget anything.
It's like a funnel, right? So you start with the most, and then you work your way, like every step of the way, you're kind of condensing what it is that you need to study.
So that's really what's different about your product compared to the other exam prep programs.
Exactly. Is it tells you exactly what you need to know. We take out the guesswork for you.
So will this be supplemental to the regular prep work for them to focus on the essays, or does your prep work cover everything?
They can really be used 2 ways. You can use it as a supplement. So you can get it, you can get the other bar prep programs or whatever it is that you are using to study, and then use Forte Bar Prep in order to, write your practice answers, in order to memorize. It gives you, like I said, something to work with.
To really focus on.
To focus, yes, exactly. So you can use it as a supplement. Alternatively, you can also use it as the main thing you're using to study for the essays, but you do need to supplement something so you're studying for the multiple choice.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
For the other exam programs, do they have different sections? Can somebody take maybe the multiple choice from the traditional one and then the essay portion from your program?
The one that I worked with when I was studying for the bar was a full service bar prep program. So it had both multiple choice and it had essays. But the thing that nobody really tells you is that you're going to be buying supplements anyway.
Yeah.
So I remember, when I bought the program, it was the first day of studying, and I was just literally from my bed. I was like, oh, I have to buy this. I have to buy this. I have to buy half the stuff I didn't even use,
So you're taking the guesswork and every other, research away from the students who are trying to prep for the bar exam.
Here's what I will say, being as prudent as possible, given that I'm an attorney, if you do actually memorize and use our materials to practice, the likelihood of passing the essay portion of the bar exam is extremely high. Extremely high.
And have you tested this against the group?
Yes, we've done several beta groups,
Awesome.
and we've had incredible passage rates with the beta groups. And if anybody wants to read any of our reviews, they can do so on our
I love
website.
that.
So we
I
do
love
have our
that. And we'll
testimonials
link all
up.
of your information.
Yeah.
So whoever's interested, they can go ahead and definitely check it out.
Yeah.
How about a little bit about the other part of your current business, you being a business litigation attorney? Tell us more.
Well, yeah, so I'm a business litigation attorney here in LA. I work for a firm that covers, essentially general civil practice. So we do a lot of work in court, a lot of motion writing, a lot of, all the stuff that lawyers do. Yeah,
Awesome. So do you have two passions? Are these two things you really want to push and pursue? Or it sounds like maybe you're really like more passionate about the prep program because you've maybe found a way to help more people accomplish their goals of becoming attorneys? Or
entrepreneurship is definitely my passion and my goal. So
you found a way to maybe bind being an attorney and having it have, more passive income with adding a business to it.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And that's what our podcast is about, like taking even our day-to-day jobs and making more out of it, right? So, and I don't know, applying our passions, if that's that's a good way of explaining it. So I love that you're doing that and that you can like put your heart into a totally new product, because honestly something like that, I haven't heard anybody, and I talk to a lot of people, I'm always curious, I haven't heard anybody to kind of challenge those big exam prep programs, right? So this is amazing to see someone is kind of like, hey, no, like just because it's been done this way for thousands of years, I don't know thousands, but
thousands of years,
for many years. I feel like it's thousands.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, so it's really great that you're challenging something, because a lot of times we don't look into jobs or fields or business ideas that it's like, okay, no, they own this market, right? But there's always room for something new to come along, because just because it's been done a certain way for thousands of years, it doesn't mean it's the best way or we can't add supplements or improvements to it. So I think that's why I really love your story.
Here's what I will say, and actually I'm glad you touched on this because I think this is important for people, or at least I would like for people to know this.
Okay.
We did not create anything for the multiple choice portion of the exam. And the reason that we didn't do that is because we felt that the market was sufficient in that territory. There are a lot of really great supplements. The bar prep programs that I'm talking about cover that very well. Where it was missing, and it was seriously missing, was there was no sufficient. You guys have done
your research and you've applied to what you think is needed.
We created specifically what we knew was needed because we were our target market. We weren't, I mean, yes, obviously it's a for-profit, it's a business. But the thing is, it really was created to help people and to fill a hole that is in the market. So it's what we wished we had when we were studying for the bar.
I love that. And that's what makes the best entrepreneurs and businesses.
Thank you.
When you're your own customer, so you know what you're looking for. Do you offer any other products?
It's funny that you should ask. We actually just added some new bundles.
Always growing, I see.
So we actually worked with a baby bar prep expert.
What is that?
The baby bar is the thing that Kim Kardashian. I know that there are some schools that require it.
Okay.
There are some ways, like for instance, if you're reading the law, which is what Kim is doing, where you need to also take it. So basically, it's a smaller test. So it tests, instead of the full subject, it tests only 3 subjects.
Oh, got it.
And so for that bundle, we also have a multiple choice portion.
Oh.
So we do offer multiple choice for the baby bar.
Awesome.
And then we also have a 1L bundle. So this is for people that are in their first year of law school, and it's to help them through their first year final exams.
So you basically added all the products that you wish you had when you were in law school.
Exactly. I added everything I wish I had. I basically created the perfect situation and scenario.
I love it.
For basically what I would have wanted, which I think that a lot of other people
will benefit from. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be messaging them like, thank you so much for creating this.
I hope so. I hope so. Yes, exactly.
All right. right, let's go back a little bit. So tell us about your journey. How did you end up where you are today? Is there anything else that you dabbled with in the past? Because I know you have a passion for entrepreneurship. And I know for me as an entrepreneur, when you have ideas, you just want to do everything. You're like, oh, I could do this business. I could do that business. So is there anything you want to kind of share with our listeners of what your journey has been like for you to kind of be where you are today?
Yes, there is something I would like to share. No, but seriously though, I always say that, entrepreneurship is like it's a double-edged sword. And I also feel like it's definitely sort of like an affliction. It's a personality disease, if you will, right? Because like, if it's really in you, it's not going anywhere. At least this has been my experience. And people that I've talked to, people of all levels of success, like whether you've, tried everything and ultimately you're just still trying, or you're like super successful at what you do. It doesn't leave you. It's not, it just doesn't leave you.
You're just going to keep wanting to try until you make it.
Exactly. And so you're talking about having idea. Yeah. Everything is just kind of an idea. Like I have ideas for everybody all the time. Like somebody opens their mouth and I'm like, that
business.
Yeah. I have to like hold back, cause like it's always just, I always say my favorite place to be is the ideas phase. That's where I'm the most excited. I love talking about different things that are possible.
That's the hard part about entrepreneurship, though. Yeah. Like the ideas and everything seems so fun, but then the actually being disciplined and applying it and finding the resources and the team to make it happen, that's the hard part.
Girl, you gotta read Richard's book. I'm telling you. It's so, because it touches on this like very thing. Yeah, it's good. And it's very funny. I feel like I'm here to sell this book. This is what I'm doing today, is I'm selling this book.
Okay,
she needs my help. Yeah.
Your authors, let's just give her
exactly.
a link that people can click and she can get some money out of this.
I'll link it in my Amazon store, and I'm kidding.
No, we're joking.
I don't have an Amazon store.
We genuinely like this. She genuinely likes this book. I'm gonna read it and I'll let you guys know what I think about it.
Yes.
But I'm sold.
I always, even when I was going to like undergrad, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was the goal. So at that time, I'm maybe aging myself a little bit, but all this kind of like YouTube, Instagram, but Instagram it wasn't around at that time, I'm not that old. It was like a few years, like maybe like 2 years away from that.
15, so that's
Thank you, my dear. But anyway, my point is that, it was like when it was just springing up, and I really wanted to do new media, right?
You wanted to jump onto an opportunity because you have that entrepreneurial gene in you.
Exactly. So I wanted to create very much like this, like a YouTube series. And I started with a YouTube series actually called It's Never Too Early, Young Entrepreneurs.
Oh, right? I love that.
Very lengthy title. And the idea behind it was I'm going to interview young business owners that are like doing their thing, that are successful.
Kind of like what we're doing now.
Exactly. So you would be somebody that I would, interview on that show. So I started with that. And then, there are several different ideas that I explored, I guess you could say. And there was actually something that I was exploring even when I was in law school that I've sort of toyed with maybe going back to. But again, it was all within the same vein. I wanted to sort of, do what basically a lot of people are doing nowadays, which is create a brand, create a show, talk to people, share in these conversations. I think though, if I'm being completely transparent, and I know that this wasn't even asked, because I like to examine things, right?
Yeah, I do too.
And I feel that where I have sort of faltered, I guess you could say, is I have listened way too much to the opinions of those around me.
Okay.
When it was not necessary to do that.
My questions are making you think, aren't
yes.
they?
Yes. I'm deep in thought.
Like, now that I think about it, why did I listen to this person? But honestly, I'll touch on that subject too. So my background was in education, and I was a counselor for like 6 years, academic and financial advising at a university. So I was in the education thing. And when I finally was like, okay, I'm done with this corporate world, I'm going to jump and open my salon as my initial start of being an entrepreneur, because that's something I saw an opportunity in. And again, at that time, my lash extensions were brand new. So I was like, oh, I'm going to jump on this. So that's kind of very short, my story. But that's again when a lot of people, even my number one supporters, like my dad has been next to me every step of the way for everything. He's still like on the scene and helping with so much. Even him, he's like, you're crazy. Like, you sure you want to own your business? You're going to hate life. You're going to have to be on there 24/7. Like beauty, like why would you get into beauty? You have like this, you know, professional image and like so many people respect you and that thing. I'm like, yeah, but like they can do that in beauty, you know? A lot of people, even they love you and they want the best for you, they might not have the same vision as you. And I was like, no, Dad, look, you're going to see one day we're going to have this big warehouse. You're even going to come out. When it happened, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like awesome to think back now. But that literally happened. And I know he wants the best for me. But my kind of quick moral of the story is, we should not listen to people around us if we deeply have a vision and an idea, because nobody could really like get into your head and truly know what you're trying to create.
I mean, I really think it's an art, you know, like knowing when to take advice and knowing just when to not, you know, knowing when to drown it out. So let's
go back. So you started talking about, so back then when you were doing that, you feel like maybe there were people that didn't support that goal or dream. Let's continue that conversation.
It's not that they didn't support it, but it was like
bad advice.
Yeah, actually, yes, it was quite bad advice. So I started with my initial idea, which was to interview, you know, young business owners and kind of, you know, we're learning how to be entrepreneurs together is basically my thing. And so I was like very passionate about this and doing it. And I had a friend who was like, well, you know, you're really into fashion. Why don't you do like a fashion thing? And I was like, nah, you know, I don't think that's a really good idea. But then, you know, it kind of like got into my head and I was like, well, maybe
that's crazy how what people say gets to your head.
Yeah. And so then I started this thing called Runaway the Real Way. Which,
that's
by the
catchy.
way, thank you, my dear. It was actually fantastic, I must say. But like, honestly, I do. I love clothes. I love anything having to do with image, all of that.
It was could just be a personal passion. It doesn't have to turn into a business.
Exactly. And then so from there, though, you know, there was this other person who was like, well, I want to do this business. And she was a nutritionist and a trainer. So she's like, well, why don't we do this together? And, you know, you can have this component. And I was just like, sure, why not? Now, if there is...
I like health and fitness. Let's do it.
I hate health and fitness.
Never mind.
No. I mean, I don't hate health and fitness. I'm obviously like, I care very much about health and fitness, but I never want to talk about it. I never want to talk about with you about what you eat. I don't want to talk about I don't care. Like, bring me a pillow and I will go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, just it's not something that I can carry on a business about. And it's like, I was trying... I mean, there's nothing wrong, I think, with pivoting and stretching yourself.
So would you say the biggest lesson you learned throughout that was don't get, I guess, carried away or sucked into other people's ideas or thoughts. Instead, try to really keep your kind of like vision focused and straight to what you personally want.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that and just follow through. You know, if I were to do it over again, and I don't have regrets because I really do.
I was going to ask you that, yeah.
I don't have regrets, no. You know, just because I am actually happy that I ended up in law school and I am happy that I'm doing what I'm doing.
And everything happens for a reason. Like all these things led you to where you need to be right now and today.
Exactly. And I mean, like at the end of the day, you know, it's like an unfolding story. But if I were to do it over again, honestly, I would have stuck with my initial idea.
You know, maybe one day you can get back to it if that's something that's still kind of crossing your mind and if you still want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not off the table, but I'm just saying, you know, I'm looking at myself, you know, I was like 21 years old or 22 or whatever, and just kind of like just starting and doing all that stuff. And I think if the biggest piece of advice that I would have is just follow through.
Follow through. Don't let any little obstacles or other people's opinions or ideas kind of distract you.
Exactly, you know?
So what was the thing that kind of made you not follow through with that initial idea? Now that you're still looking back and you're like, oh, I kind of wish I did this. This was a great idea back then. Can you like say one or two things that might have held you back then? Because we may have listeners that are kind of in that same boat now and they're like, oh, maybe like I need to give up or like this is not right for me. Can you share your story about that?
Sure. I mean, it's a lot of it was self-doubt, you know what I mean? So obviously, especially at the time.
We all have it.
Yeah, you know, and people just kind of being like, well, I don't know if this is really going to work or, you know, whatever. And so I always say that I was trying to do an untraditional thing in a traditional way, right? So I was trying to do what was smart. And I don't even like, oh, everyone's doing a fashion thing or, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. This is smart, right? But you got to go with ultimately, you need to listen to your intuition and you need to be true to yourself. Because I look back at it honestly, At 16 years old, my very first business, I'll tell you what it was. I made specialty burlesque bras.
What?
Okay. And I remember I made it for a girl in my high school, and it was actually really cool. And then I started getting orders for it.
What? That's
and then
That's
literally,
awesome.
yeah. And I joined like this auction show in Melrose, and it sold out, and all, you know,
No
and all of that.
way.
I mean, my taste in lingerie has since changed, but
You were 16.
yeah, exactly. You know, it was like very like Pussycat Dolls, kind of like very, you know, it was great though. I mean, it was fun. But I will say, you know, when I look back at it, you know, at 16 years old, I had the bug. 20 years old, I still wanted to do it, like be an entrepreneur, have my own business. 25.
I guess the real question is, are you born to be an entrepreneur, or do you become one if you want to become one?
Both. I fall more in the camp of I really think that this is something that is just it's a part of my personality. So it's like at every phase in my life, I look back, now I'm looking back at all those other phases, and I'm
You're
like,
like, dang, I was an entrepreneur all along the way.
it hasn't changed.
That's
and you need to
awesome.
be real with yourself. Honestly, I think about that. You know, it's like when I look back at it, I'm just kind of like, I still want the same thing that I wanted then. And
so what's the ultimate goal for you? I know a lot of people don't think sometimes that long term. We all just want to be rich or successful, but what does that really mean for you? Like what does being rich or successful mean to you?
ultimate freedom.
Okay.
That's really what it is. I mean,
Freedom in what sense? What does freedom mean to you?
what is
I'm gonna
freedom
dig
mean
deep,
to you?
yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna make you think about a lot of things today.
I like it. I like to think. Please, I don't think enough. Just get me to think. No, what does freedom mean to me? That's a really good question. I think freedom. I mean, I don't mean to sound like a child, which I probably
Don't
am
even
going
think
to.
about it. Tell me the first
It's
thing
doing
that comes
what you
to
want
your-
when you want.
Okay.
Right. So I understand.
and having the resources to do what you want when you want.
that is part of it, and that is what money is in my mind. That is what money is for. It is for convenience, and it is for freedom. That's what it is for. It is not. This is what I cannot stand. Money can't buy you happiness. I'm not trying to buy happiness.
Trying to have the resources to live a happy life.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to like. That's not. Who said that? You know,
It doesn't. Okay, so I have a great answer to that. So, who said that it has to go hand in hand? Why can't it be both?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can have money and you can use it for however you
Right.
want, but that's not related at all to happiness. That's a different category. That's how I like to explain it.
Exactly.
Like, your happiness level has nothing to do with the money. You can have $5 and you can still be very, very happy. I
Exactly.
really believe that.
But I mean, I think to go deeper, freedom really is, you know, the ability to sort of, I mean, it is very simple to make your own schedule, you know? And yeah, I understand when you're an entrepreneur, obviously you're working more, you know, but
You're willingly working more. No
Right.
one's making you.
Exactly. Or, you know, even if it's something that's a complete necessity, the entire process of answering to people, in a way where it's, you know, I have to show up, like clocking in and out is not something that I've ever.
So part of having a freedom in your scheduling is part of what makes you know that you're going to be rich or successful. That's part of your definition.
I mean, successful, not necessarily.
Successful, yeah.
Yeah, you know,
part of it, just a little
part of it. You know, it just a matter of being able to just kind of, you know, yeah, just freedom of mobility, you know, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. No, but seriously, you know, it really is what it is. My definition of success is complete freedom, and whatever that means to anybody. It doesn't necessarily even have to be connected to
Yes,
business.
all of our definitions would be different. That's why I
Exactly.
wanted to ask for you specifically, what does that freedom mean?
Yeah. So, I mean,
And that's actually a good question for all of you listeners out there. You know, a lot of times we do say, oh, I want to be rich. I want to be successful. I want to be wealthy. I want this. I want that. I want the freedom. But we never take the time to really like break it down and be like, okay, but what does that mean to me? Like, what am I working towards? So I challenge you to literally right now, pause the audio video and literally think about it and write it down. Write down, what does this mean to you? And honestly, that's part of, I think, why I'm happy with where I am and why I think I'm successful for myself is because I've taken the time to really answer these questions and really think about, okay, what do I want out of life? And these were some of the questions I really had to think about, because initially I'm like, I don't know, like, yeah, I want freedom, but is this schedule? Is this money? Like, is it me traveling? Like, what is it specifically, right? So anyways, okay, back to our...
All of the above.
Yes, all of the above. Yeah. But see, it's easy to also say that I want it all.
Right.
But all for me might not be all for you. So
Exactly.
It's so important for us to really like sit down and break all of that down so we can kind of see, okay, what am I working towards? Like, do I want a yacht, or who cares? Is this yacht not going to make me happy? Like, I don't like to be on the water. Why do I want a yacht, right? I can just go on a vacation on a yacht and I'm happy with that.
Or like, just as an example, I mean, in law, obviously there's many different ways you can go. There are people that are, literally chained to a desk, right? And they, I don't know, make a substantial amount of money. Great. I do not want this.
Of course, and that's not bad or wrong. That may be the right fit for somebody who likes structure, who likes to, know exactly when they're going to go in, leave, and they're done, or that they know that they're going to have a set amount of income. They don't have to worry about, budgeting when they do have money and like, really not spending when they don't have money. It's different. It's not right for you personally, but it may not necessarily mean, like you said, that it's not, for the other person.
Exactly.
Let me go back a little bit, because a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs. So I want to know, like, just because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs that are new in the industry, what advice would you give as a business litigation attorney for our entrepreneurs to know? Like, what are common things that businesses get in trouble with or need law advice on?
I would say that the biggest piece of advice I have, especially for new businesses, get everything down on paper. I don't care if you're doing business with a friend. I don't care. I don't care if it's somebody that you trust implicitly. And it's not even necessarily that trust is going to be broken or anything like that. It's not, preempting something that might happen. It's smart to get into the practice of making sure that everything is written down so that you are covered.
Cover all your bases. And I think, like, for me, that not only to really be like, okay, you have to sign this. I think for me, like, I like having that is just because, okay, we understood each other correctly. Right. Like, this is what we agreed upon and it's right here. Let's review it again. Because a lot of times when we do talk to even with a friend or a business partner or anything like that, we may misunderstand each other. Like, until today, that kind of happens with some of my employees. Like, I'm like, oh, I thought like this is what we decided. We were clear on this. Now, I may be too tired and I made a mistake, or I don't remember exactly like what we decided, or the employee might have misunderstood what I was asking for. But even in something like that, if I was clear, okay, like, this is what I want done, here are the goals, objectives, okay, we're both clear on what we're trying to achieve, then that would be a better practice.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, it's good that you brought that up, because I don't mean just contracts, like things to sign.
Okay.
I quite literally mean, like, yes, you have a meeting, follow it with an email. It's good to have everything. It's
you have to be very disciplined for that.
You do.
I wish I could do that, but yeah, I need to work on that part.
You do, but I would say that that's the biggest thing. I think, especially when you're new. It's funny, because I feel like when you just first start a business, you don't actually think any of these things are applicable to you. You're like, whatever. Like, do I really need to do this? It's not like I'm Amazon, but you do. You do. You need to take it seriously. And then another piece of advice that I would have is know when to hire a lawyer. So when do I know I need to hire a lawyer? when we're talking about, specific contracts, when you start dealing with other people, when you're dealing with vendors or whatever.
Just to get advice on like a certain business transaction, or can you explain that further? Because even for me, that's kind of unclear.
To make sure that things are done properly.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you are writing a contract, just understanding, here's what I will say. I think for me, I just come from the school of thought that everybody has their expertise and they have that expertise for a reason, right? So I can do, for instance, something, I guess, to a certain point, right? But there is an expert in it who can do it, sufficient, like,
of course,
to an expert
they could
level.
Do it faster, better, less mistakes,
and make sure that everything is covered. So I would say that when you're getting to a point when you're writing contracts, like have obviously between agreements with other people, I would have that looked over by an attorney for sure, and get advice from an attorney. It's important to do that from the outset, and I think it's important to treat your business seriously from the outset.
Yeah, I love that. Even when you're just starting out, you know, sometimes it's hard as a new business because you don't have the funds, so you don't want to spend that extra money. But your advice is it is very important. Take it seriously from the beginning and budget for the legal advice. So you had also mentioned that you were going through life-changing events while you were studying for the exam. What helped you get through the difficult times?
What helped me get through?
How did you keep going?
How did I keep going? I think it just a everyday sort of a day-to-day, keeping your eyes on the prize type of a thing. But I will tell you the one thing that helped me, because my father actually died right before
that was your event, life-changing event.
I mean, the whole thing, to be honest with you, law school in and of itself, it's not even just about the difficulty, but it's an extremely, extremely life-changing time. Oh. I won't even say challenging, but I'll say life-changing for most of us. I can't speak for everybody, but for most of us, when you're going through it, you know, you're generally sort of removed from general society, right? So you're in with these people, you know, this is sort of your world. It's what you see is what you do, and it's very immersive. And the one piece of advice, if I may, that I do have for people that are just starting or thinking about going to law school is just let it happen to you. Really, just it's 3 years. Don't overthink it. Just embrace it for what it is. You will honestly not regret it. Just let it happen to you. Whatever's and they will know what I'm talking about. Just let it happen. Okay? And don't resist it. And so basically though, you know, having those 3 years, like graduating, you know, sort of going into a new phase of life, and then on top of that, you know, having my father die.
I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you for saying that. It was very, very quick. So it was 2 months and 10 days, basically, between diagnosis and the time that he passed. So, and it happened right before I graduated. So right before I started studying for the bar. I think the thing that kept me going, if I'm being completely honest with you, yes, it was, my dad would have wanted me to do this, for sure. And it was
still so difficult going through something and trying to still keep your head in the game, you know?
Right. But I will tell you honestly what it was that very much helped me is knowing that it wasn't going to last forever. It's 10 weeks, right? If I could just push through 10 weeks, I can get back to my grief right after. That's totally fine. So I think in anything really is sort of putting it into perspective and looking at it for what it is. Because especially if it's, I mean, not all things in life are like this, but especially if it's a finite amount of time where you know there's a start and you know there is an end.
But that's up to us. Even huge things, we can break it down to finite, like little chunks. And recently, I was listening to another podcast, and this guy, like, that's what he said. He said, when I go running, when I'm tired, I don't think about, oh my God, I have like 5 more miles to go. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go to that next light post, to the next light post. You know, you're just looking at it at small pieces at a time.
Exactly.
And that's, I guess, that what happened to you too. You were able to get through such a difficult time with thinking, okay, it's not forever. It's just 10 weeks, you said, right?
10, ideally. Yeah. They give you 10 weeks from graduation to, it was supposed to be 10 weeks. Yeah. Take action and just understand that, you know, I'm certainly not advocating. I mean, I think that the only way, what's that saying?
Which one?
The only way over it is through it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. The only way.
This is like a very specifically said, the only way out is through.
Yes.
Okay.
Out.
So, I mean, with something like the death of a parent, there is no out, right? No. But
life happens. We cannot control everything, and it's up to us to control what we can control.
Right.
And let everything else happen, like you said.
Exactly. You know, so I'm certainly not advocating, you know, like push it down. That's not what I'm saying. Like when you're going through something difficult, I very much think that it's necessary to, you know, to feel and to sort out those emotions. But
of course, but if we keep busy too, like for me personally, I like to keep busy too. Same. And try to go on with life, because if sometimes we do try to pause and just really focus on that negative thing that's going on in our lives, it almost consumes you and it just goes in a negative spiral.
Exactly.
Like the more you think about the bad, like it's almost like everything seems out of control. But of course, like you said, deal with the emotions and go through it, especially if it's a grief. Like I'm talking about general, any bad things that we're going through life. But yes, take action, and that will also help you kind of like distract you, right? In order for you to get through it a little bit without overthinking and just like only focusing on that bad thing that's happening in your life. Exactly.
Just everything in perspective. You know, something as simple as going out for your morning coffee can completely change the vibe of your day, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
just that
I believe it.
I'm also a social creature, so maybe I'm just talking from the point of it.
No, honestly, you know? It's how we set our days too. Like, and there's been studies done. Like in the morning, if you have a smoother morning and a happy morning, let's say you have a somewhat of a routine. You wake up, you do certain things a certain way. You're not running late. You start your day off relaxed and happy, then the rest of your day ends up going the same way. But if you wake up, you're late, you're rushing, you spill something, or, you know, there's traffic and you're thinking about, oh, I hate my life, or I hate that there's traffic, then your whole day goes wrong. Like one thing after another, it's almost like a domino effect. So I do believe that even that choice of doing that one thing that's good for you or positive or happy for you is going to have a trickling effect of other good things that are going to happen throughout your day.
There's also one more thing that I actually recently read. It was someone's Instagram caption. And I was like, wow, that's actually a very good point. She was like, the older I get, the more I realize like how fleeting emotions are. So, you know, it's like in the moment when you're feeling something so strongly, just hold out a little bit and see how much if it dissipates, or how you're feeling in a little while, you know, just understanding that it's not forever. I think that's the problem, is people get trapped in this mentality, or at least for myself in the past, right? I can't speak for people. I can only speak for myself. I would get stuck in this mentality where it was just like, oh my God, this is like never ending, right? It's never ending,
and it's never forever.
It's never forever. You know, sometimes, unfortunately, so. Yeah. You know, so
live in the moment. Appreciate all the good and let the bad pass as it should. You know, slowly but surely.
Exactly. Just feel it.
Well, it has been so nice to talk with you, and I can talk with you for hours, but we do have to sum up. So I want you to let our listeners know. So if you were to talk to your younger self, what are some words of encouragement or advice that you would give yourself? Like for me, for example, when I was younger, I'd be like, stop overthinking things. Like that's what I would tell myself. Like it's all gonna be fine. Like especially, you know, when we're in our teens or early adulthoods, like don't waste your time on these guys. No,
seriously, don't waste your time. That was my dad's always, you're wasting your time. Yeah. Thanks, Dad. Yeah. I know. Yeah. You know, and I think what I mean by that really is on things that are fundamentally not making you joyful, that are not growing you in any way. And by that, I really mean mostly, you know, emotional situations, maybe situations with significant others and whatnot. When you're feeling like it's detrimental to you, move on. Ultimately, it does not matter. It's not that serious. I actually just gave that advice to my cousin's 18-year-old.
Nice. Yeah. Because it's true. Anything we can get more of. Honestly, like even like anything, like food, money, like anything that we waste, like we can always get more of. However, time is one thing that's finite. Like there's just 24 hours in a day. That's all we get. And we're not going to be able to fill that in. So it's very important. And that has always been so important for me, is to make sure that I don't waste any time. I think I was like, at one point I was obsessed with this thing where I would even time my showers, and I would schedule in my showers to make sure that I'm being so efficient with my time. Honestly, that was kind of crazy. Like, don't be that efficient with your time. My friends would make fun of me, at least. I don't know if I've shared this before, but two of my best friends, they literally would put sticky notes on my car as a joke. Don't forget to shower. Like,
oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah, but I would schedule everything to make sure I don't waste time, because I did do a lot of research on, you know, what like who makes a successful person, how to be successful. And then like that time thing always comes up. It's like we all have the same amount of time, but what do we do with it, right?
You know what? I actually have better advice.
Say it.
I just remembered. And this is just my advice, like across the board, right? And it's funny because I understand that, you know, we're talking about business, we're talking about entrepreneurship. However.
And also personal development.
Personal development, yes. Okay. But the thing about it is, like, I really think it's the emotional situations that you find yourself in. usually, let's just be real, relationships, right?
Yes.
That just kind of throw you in a way, you know, where you're wasting most of your time, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And here's what I will say, and this is advice that I would give to my younger self. It's advice that I would give to the version of me that I was yesterday, okay? Do not ever, ever let anybody control the narrative of who you are.
Oh, I love that.
Do not ever let anybody do that. That is the one thing. When somebody starts trying to tell you who you are, hard no.
Red flag, run.
Hard no. I mean, that goes in anything, you know? If you're like, this is what I want to do. Oh, you can't do that. You can't. You're not capable of it. Or this is what I'm like. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it doesn't, I was going to say it doesn't always have to be in the negative, but it's when somebody starts trying to control the narrative of who you are. No.
Don't allow it.
That is the one thing, like your self-identity and just you yourself. That's for you, you know? Don't let anybody define that.
That's a very strong advice, like ending advice.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Well, with that said, again, thank you so much for being on our podcast. And please let our listeners know where they can find you, where they can connect with you. And obviously, we'll also link everything below, but tell them.
Thank you for having me. Well, you can find Forte Bar Prep on Instagram. Handle at Forte Bar Prep, and you can find me and Forte Bar Prep on TikTok, Facebook, and also via email if you have any questions at all.
And we'll link everything below so you can't miss her.
Thank you.
And obviously we're going to feature on our pages and everything, so make sure you guys give her a follow and like, and let's really all support each other into our entrepreneurial journeys. Well, thank you for listening. I hope all of you have a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, whatever day and time it is for you. Bye! Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.